Hello and welcome to another That Other Retro Guy video. And for this video it's actually going to be the first in a two-part series where I run through the stores that I remember growing up as a kid. The first part is going to be the game stores. The second part is going to be the video stores, like rentals and to buy and that. But first we're going to concentrate on the game ones. And obviously, born in 82, growing up in the 80s, I still remember shops that were basically just the game stores of the day. You know, the first one I want to talk about is Software Plus. Now, I only knew of two branches. One was in Harlow, in Post Office Walk, where I used to frequent near enough all the time. Every single weekend, used to go in there and see what the guy had. I remember going in there and, you know, as soon as you're going through the front door, on the left would be the new releases. On the right would be the counter, and he'd have like a little public domain box where he'd have discs of like public domain discs and, you know, and that, and he'd have like a TV screen with like a computer running and like one of the latest games and that. And then as you go down the steps, you would have Spectrum games. Was it Spectrum? No, so it was Amiga games. I remember it being like at the time of the Amiga as well. I remember it being Amiga games on the left, PC games, like big box PC games at the time, like in the middle on like a stand. And then as it goes round, there was Atari ST games on the other side. And then there was like a little alcove bit where you walk through and there was like another room and it had Spectrum, Commodore 64 and Amstrad games. On like the dual, the single duals, the double duals, and also the big boxes as well. But it would be from there that I do remember one Christmas going in there, and my mum and dad said, "Right, what do you want for Christmas?" And I'm sorry about the wispy hair thing. It's been annoying me all day. I've been driving around with it, and it's an annoyance. I'm gonna have to try and cut the hair at some point. But anyway, going back to the story, they said, you know, what did you want for Christmas? And I looked and I said, I saw Predator 2. Now, being that, I was a little too young to watch the film, I actually saw it on Sky, you know, and when the game came out and I saw it in there, I was like, yeah, that's going to be one of them. And the other one I came across, R-Type 2. Yes, the Arc Developments. The Arc Developments developed and Activision published R-Type 2, which I went into blind. I didn't even know there was an R-Type 2, especially like an arcade game. I actually thought this was an original for the home computers, like a bit like Target Renegade and Renegade 3, the final chapter. And so got them home, and the Amiga set up. My dad and my brother turned around and said, right, we're going to have to test them out to see if they work, because if not, we've got to take them back. So you can't come up while we're testing them. So I was like, shit. And of course, I kept trying to sneak up, but they actually had the door shut, you know, and I just had to wait it out. And one of the other games I do remember buying in there is a game called Shockwave by Digital. I can see the box now. It's got the title at the top. You've got a picture of like I think it's like one of the peaks in the Grand Canyon or Death Valley or something. And then it's got the Digital something software label at the bottom. And they also released Escape from Coldix on the Amiga as well, which is a fantastic game. Absolutely fantastic game. But yeah, I remember getting that as well, like another time. And absolutely enjoying that. But there was also a Software Plus in the old Stratford Shopping Centre. it was one of those ones where the shopping centre was underneath the car park, and and I remember it wasn't long after getting the Amiga. I think it was about 92, beginning of 92. We got Treasure Island Dizzy from in there, Wacky Darts, and Shadow of the Beast in the big box with the t-shirt. And I've still got the t-shirt somewhere. Sadly, it's starting to fall apart, but it's something I'll always keep hold of. Sadly, I haven't got the box anymore. I've still got the discs, and I've still got the manual somewhere. I don't know where they are. But yeah, I remember going in there, and this one was just like a little market stall, kind of jobby, where it was all like, it was just like as soon as you opened the shutter, it was open. There was no doors, there was no glass front or anything. And I remember looking at the front, you had a shelving unit which had no back, which was like a solid back, faced out onto like the actual shopping centre, and a bit where you walked in, and then you had the games and that. And we got them from in there, and yeah, Software Plus, absolutely amazing store, and it's one that I do miss going into. Actually, funnily enough, it was one of the mainstays of my childhood. Really was, to go in there every week, see what the new releases were, see what was going cheap, see what was on sale, see what I could spend my pocket money on. And yeah, Software Plus. If only they were still around, they'd show game of a thing or two. But tell you what though, moving on to game, I'm going to talk about their first iteration, which was Future Zone. And I remember it in the Harvest Centre in Harlow. When it first opened, when it first said coming soon, Future Zone, I was like, I wonder what that is. So of course when it first opened, it was like a computer gamer's wet dream. It was like Mecca for the video gamer. It was fantastic. Obviously, this came just after the Spectrum had basically just fizzled out, and it was basically from the Amiga upwards. So you had the Amiga, the Atari ST, the PC, you had the original Game Boy, Game Gear, Master System, Mega Drive, SNES, and also some Nintendo as well. And I still remember it now. When you go in, you had the Sega Mega Drive on the left, you had the Super Nintendo on the left, you had the PC on the right hand side, you had Atari ST on shelves in the middle, and then at the back on the right hand side you had the Amiga games, and then at the back was a long counter, and yeah, that again, they had a TV showcasing like one of the latest releases and that, and yeah, I remember buying quite a few games out of there for the Amiga, for the Mega Drive, even for the Super Nintendo. I remember getting Sylvester and Tweety on the Mega Drive out of there. What else did I get? I actually got quite a few games out of Future Zone. I got RoboCop vs Terminator out of there for my birthday one year. Absolutely fantastic place. Bloody loved it. And also got the double pack of Killer Instinct and the Nintendo Watch, which I wore until the strap broke. Couldn't get replacement strap for it, so I had to chuck it, sadly. And it also came with the Killer Cuts CD as well, which I've still got, which is great. Yeah. For the Amiga side, I remember getting a copy of BloodNet out of there. That didn't work, so I took that back. I ended up getting Space Hulk and Syndicate, I do believe. It was either Syndicate or Doom 2, Battle for Arrakis. It was one of the two. But I do remember getting them out of there though. Because they used to do like buy one get one free, and it was always like the lower price item was free. And I purposely pick the budget releases you know, because there was no like releases at the time, like full price ones that were like grabbing me at the time. Although I was a bit short sighted, I should have picked up Beneath a Steel Sky because that goes for 40 quid plus on eBay, boxed, complete. But yeah, I remember getting Space Hulk out of there. As I say, Syndicate. I got Theme Park out of there. Wing Commander. What else did I get out of there? I've got a few more Amiga games out there, but I can't for the life of me remember them. And yeah, then they turned into Electronics Boutique. I think it was at the beginning of the PlayStation era. And yeah, I remember them having like Saturn games, PlayStation games, a few Amiga games, loads of PC ones. That bit of hair is getting on my tits. There, sorted. Yeah, a few Amiga games that they were just trying to get rid of. A few Mega Drive and SNES games again they were trying to get rid of. And as I say, big box PC games. And you also still had Game Boy Color, like Game Boy Advance and that. Because I still remember getting out of the Harlow branch. I remember getting a Game Boy Advance transparent purple. And I got, what did I get with it? Got a couple of games with it as well. Earthworm Jim 2. And Castlevania, I think it was. Yes, I think it was. No, sorry, it was No Rules Get Fat or something. It's basically this kid on this skateboard that goes around defeating aliens and stuff like that. It's not a bad game, actually. It's all right. But yeah, just going in there, getting PlayStation 2 games out of there. And even getting some PS1 games as well. I didn't have a Saturn at the time. I didn't get Saturn until early 2000s, I think. About 2002, 2003, I think. And I got it dirt cheap with about 3 or 4 games. I think it was about 100 quid. I can't remember. But by then, that time, Saturn games were non-existent. You know, you couldn't buy new Saturn games, which was a shame. But yeah, and then they turned into game, and then, as we all know, the game that exists now is basically a shadow of its former self. You know, don't do trade-ins no more. All inside Sports Direct stores. It's like a little pokey little bit in the corner. Might as well not bother having them, if I'm honest. Basically, the game of old, even the Future Zone, like when it used to be Future Zone, was fantastic. But now, well, I don't go in there. I only go in there every once in a while just to see if they've got any sales on. More often than not, they don't. Or if they do, they've only knocked about a £5 off of something or a £10 off of something, and it's still ridiculously expensive. So, RIP Future Zone Electronics Boutique. But another place that I used to get games from was Comet. Comet, yeah. Yeah, you remember going into Comet and, you know, having the games on the left-hand side wall. Especially the one in Harlow. There used to be a big Comet in Harlow. And as I say, I remember going in. TVs and that were on the left-hand side, but further down you had fridge freezers on the right and tumble dryers and stuff. But then on the left, near the counter, you had the bit that I was the most interested in, the games, and having things like a SNES going, a Mega Drive going, you know, and having the games behind glass, and then you have to go and say, I want that one now. No, thanks my mind, so I have that one now. Yeah, it was just fantastic just seeing all those game titles and that, you know, and seeing like the beautiful artwork that used to adorn the Mega Drive and SNES games. You know, like the boxes and that, and even on the Game Boy ones as well. And funnily enough, it was from the Harlow store that that I actually picked up the Game Boy that I won from the Mirror. Yeah, literally, the year it came out over here in the UK, the Mirror run a competition, and I thought, fuck it, I'll do it. And the question was something ridiculously easy, like what was the name of Mario's brother? And it was Luigi, you know. So, done the entry, sent it away, and this was when I was in primary school. So yeah, I was about 9, 10, I think. Might have even been about 8. It's one of the two, or one of the three, whatever. And remember my mum picking me up. Actually, no, it was when I was at primary school. So I was about 8. Actually, no, I was 8, yes. And my mum picked me up from school and she said, "You've got a letter indoors." And I went, "Okay, who's it from?" She said, "I don't know, you know." So when we got in, opened the letter, and I looked at it and I was like, "No way." And my mum went, "What's the matter? What's happened?" I went, "You know that letter?" I said, "I'd done a competition in the Mirror last week or the week before to win a Nintendo Game Boy." She went, "Yeah." I went, "I've only gone and won it." She went, "No." And I showed her the letter and everything. She showed me Dad. And he was like, "When have you got to pick it up by us?" And they said, "Well, I can pick it up whenever I want." And yeah, so we went to Comet in Harlow. This was after Dad got in from work, and showed them the letter. Say congratulations. They went out the back. About 5-10 minutes went past. I was looking at the Game Boy games, thinking up what games can I add to the collection, and they presented me with my brand spanking new Nintendo Game Boy with Tetris bundled with it. And yeah, I played the hell out of that game. I think I played the hell out of it so much. The D-pad on that Game Boy went funky. It wouldn't work at all whatsoever, so I had to get another one, sadly. And that one went. So now I've got a Nintendo Advance SP which plays all games, so you know. And a Game Boy Color. And I've got an original Game Boy which I need to recondition. But yeah, just that's why I think Comet will always have a special place for me, because that's where I pick up my Game Boy from. And yeah, it was just fantastic place. And it was from there I actually got I think it was Mega Man 2 and WWF Superstars. And yeah, I think that was for my birthday the following year. And yeah, it was just fantastic place, just seeing all those games and that. And now they've gone to the wall. They went to the wall, I think it was about 6 years ago, 5-6 years ago, sadly. You know, R.I.P. Comet. But another one that went to the wall was Woolworths. And I'll tell you what, getting games in there. Whew, I remember getting some of my Mega Drive games in there as well. I don't remember so much the Amiga and that, but I do remember getting console games out of there. I remember getting Warlock on the Mega Drive. Yeah, Warlock the Armageddon for the Mega Drive out of there, and I think it was about a tenner. And yeah, I've still got it. I've still got that copy upstairs now. I did get a Final Fight CD for £3. And I sold it about 3 years ago for 75. So, you know, made a bit of profit on that. Not that I wanted to sell it, but I had no choice. But yeah, just another awesome place to get games. And I think that is also where I got Earthworm Jim 2 out of as well. I think that was for about a tenner, or is it a £5? It was either a £5 or a tenner. But obviously they don't exist no more, which is a shame. Apart from online, where it's called Well Worth It. But yeah, WH Smiths as well. WH Smiths, used to do games back in the day. I still remember going into the one in Harlow, and as you go in, you go all the way down, and then on the left hand side there was like a little room, say a room section, pretty big section actually for their music and video, and it was off to the left, but you had to go through 2 rows, 2 stacks of shelf units full of games to get to it. And I still remember getting Cybernator for the SNES out of there, fully boxed, for $7.99, which I thought was a bargain, and it still is. And I also got Tarzan Goes Ape out of there on the ZX Spectrum with a voucher that I got from Buster for sending in something, which I think was a game cheat. I think it was. So yeah, I then got an envelope through on one Saturday saying, "Thank you very much. Here's your free quid W.H. Smith voucher." Happy days. So yeah, went along, and I was like, "No, I don't want that. Tarzan Goes Ape. That looks fun. That'll do." And it is. It's absolutely glorious. It's a fantastic game. Probably one of my favourite Codemasters games. And but then I think it was about 10 years ago, 10, 15 years ago, they just stopped doing games. It might have even been longer than that. It might be about 20 years ago. You know, they stopped doing games, and now they've got post offices there instead. It's in the exact same bit as well. Where the cut-off is, and you've got the books that go up to that point, it's the same cut-off where music and video used to be. And yeah, whenever I go in there, I weep gently inside for what used to be. You know, I mean, I know things have to change and that, but you know, I just weep for what used to be. Especially when you look in the back left-hand corner, music and video's just got a slim shelf unit, and it's like, why bother? You know. But going back to game, I still remember when Harlow had a game station in the Broadwalk, and yeah, it was that was a retro head's paradise. Really was a retro head's paradise. I mean, I was going in there when like the 360 was out, you know, and I like bought and sold games in there and that, and it was that store where I sold, against my better judgment, Super Metroid boxed with the full guide, the full player's guide. And that's one of my biggest gaming regrets, was doing that. Because now it's worth over 100 quid. I think I sold it for about 25. It might have even been about 15 quid. You know. And every time I see a copy now on eBay for 90, 100 quid, I just go, for fuck's sake. You know. But the price of retro is not going to be talked about in this episode. That's going to be for another rant video later on down the road. But yeah, it was out there that I got Super Return of the Jedi for the Game Boy, and Chase HQ for the Game Boy. £2 a cartridge, and like Mega Drive games for like dirt cheap as well. I remember the one in Romford. There used to be a game station in Romford, and they had like Mega Drive games for like £2-3 a pop. And that's where I picked up Stargate from, because I rented it out from Penny Farthing Video in Epping, which is going to be in the second part of this video. And when I played it, I loved it. So I was looking for a copy, couldn't find one. And then when I went into this game station, they had a mint complete boxed copy for about £7. So I was like, bonza, I'm having that. Obviously, being a big fan of the film, you know, and loving the game, I thought, I'm having that, definitely, you know. And when you look back now, you know, like the consoles and that, like PlayStation, tenner, you know, games from like £2-3. Atari Jaguar for 30 quid and games for a fiver. You know, GameCube. I think it was the time of the GameCube as well. GameCube for like 30, 40 quid and games for a tenner. You know, even like hard to find ones as well. It might have even been before the GameCube's time, actually. I think, from what I remember. Well, when was the GameCube? It was late 90s, wasn't it? Late 90s, early 2000s. Yes, it was. So yeah, Game Station was still around then. And yeah, I remember getting a copy of Double Dragon boxed on the NES with the instruction manual from the Game Station in Cambridge many years ago when I visited there, and £7. And now look how much it is. Again, that's a topic for another video, but just having these retro stores, well, stores that bought in retro games at the time. They weren't retro at the time, but you know, older games. You know, you could buy them dirt cheap. You know, I miss that. I miss, you know, picking up, let's just say, a copy of The Legend of Zelda for the NES for like a tenner or a fiver, you know, and stuff like that. And yeah, it's just amazing how much the game shop landscape has changed. I mean, there even used to be a market in Harlow, and it used to have a game stall on there. It used to be Mark's Software. I used to go on there every Saturday and see what he had. And I still remember Spectrum and Amstrad games on the right hand side in the like little like racks with like bungee cords on to keep the tapes in. And on the left hand side as you go in was Commodore 64. Then it would be on the inside, and you would have Amiga games on the back, Atari ST games on the left, and then you have a table with like new releases in there. And it like I've got Outrun on there. We got Matchday 2 from there. We got Rambo 3 from there, all on the Spectrum. Got a few other games from there as well. I think I might have even got some Hit Squad games off of there. And yeah, it was like nice, friendly guy. Got chatting to him all the time and like talking to him, and you know, remember us every week and stuff like that. You know, and then it just got to one point where he just wasn't there no more. You know, that was the sad thing. He just disappeared. But then you had the advent of what was called the Monday market, where it's basically you had specialist sellers would go along and sell bits and pieces. Like you'd have a music store, you'd have a game store, and this, that, and the other. And they haven't even got that now. There even used to be a Sunday like small boot sale on there, you know, and it was there that I got Road Rash 3 on the Mega Drive for £1. Fucking £1! And it's not a bad game either. One market stall I forgot to mention in the video was Romford Market. There was a guy in the early 90s, and he had a stall right outside the Bull pub, right? There was a little cut through from the Liberty Shopping Centre, and there was like a load of shops in there and a post office and that. When you cut through, you came out to the market, and it was a huge market at the time. And the stall that it came out to was an entertainment stall. And going on there, seeing row after row after row of boxed lovely Amiga loveliness. It was just heaven for me. It really was, as a 9-year-old, well, as a 9/10-year-old, you know, seeing things like Rodland, like the Hopping Mad like compilation box, Cannon Fodder, Terminator 2, seeing all those different computer game labels, you know, Ocean, Gremlin, Sales Curve, US gold, things like that. It was a sight to behold, and I can see it now. And I'm getting all warm and fuzzy just thinking about it. It's absolutely amazing. And I've got a couple of games off of there as well. Uh, got RoboCod, James Bond 2 codename RoboCod, which I no longer have. Sadly, I've got is just a floppy disk, and that sometimes goes wrong. But I've got a backup with the Kicks edition. What else did I get off of there? Big Run. Yeah, picked up Big Run off of there, which I done a review of in one of my very first videos. God, that's near enough what 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago now, 3.5 years, 3 years ago, something or other. Anyway, how time's flown. And yeah, another one's like Harley Quinn. You know, as I say, cannon fodder and all that. And I actually got cannon fodder off there as well. And yeah, just seeing all those games, and I can still see the stall now. He had like a yellow tarp along the back. The games went from the entrance, because he used to have the games going down and then along, and you could go and have a look at the games. And then he'd have like VHS along the top, CDs there and cassettes that side. Or was it CDs, VHS, and cassettes on the top? Anyway, it was something like that. Anyway, but yeah, just seeing all those games just down the side, all those mega games, it was mind blowing. Really was mind blowing, and used to go to him every time we went to Romford, make a beeline straight for that market stall, same as the one in Harlow. You know, and yeah, I can still see it now. And as I say, it's just a really cool memory that just takes me back to my childhood, and it just makes me sad that we'll never see anything like that ever again. You know, I mean, there was even a stall over Northfield Market that used to sell games. It was at the time of like the Mega CD and that, and I picked up Starblade for the Mega CD off of there for, I think it was about 15 quid at the time, and he used to like buy and sell games and that, and yeah, Starblade was the game I bought off of him, and yeah, for 15 quid, and I've still got it upstairs, and it's still got it's got 5 stars, I suppose, for like the condition, and 15 quid. You know, so I was like, fantastic, I'll have that. And yeah, I also got Apocalypse off of there for the PS1 with Bruce Willis. And yeah, I love that stall as well. Absolutely love that stall. But again, sadly, market stalls like that no longer exist. It's all either dodgy looking tracksuits for ladies, or just cheap shite. It really is. But that's the way it is, I suppose. And even Toys R Us now. Now they're back online and in like select WH Smith stores. You know, before they used to have the big kiosk set up, you know, with like a console in and that, or a couple of consoles in like each one. And I remember going in there and playing Super Mario 64, Sonic Adventure, you know, and stuff like that. And like even buying games in there. I still remember going in there when the NES was out, and there would be 2 walls of games, and they would have a picture of the game and the description, and you get like little like tickets that you have to take up to the counter, and then you pick the game up from there, which I thought was a brilliant idea, because then when you look through the window into like the safe, what I call the safe room, or the game room, you see all these boxes of all these titles like Solar Jet, man, Battletoads, tennis, you know, and even Dragon Ninja, you know, and stuff like that. And it was just fantastic just to see these things of these games, you know, and stuff like that. I think that lasted up until the N64. It was the N64 era, because I remember actually seeing GoldenEye on one of the things in there, and I think that's where I got GoldenEye from. You know, I got Turok from out of there. On the NES, I got a 3-game bundle of Bad Dudes vs Dragon Ninja, Shadowgate, and Defender of the Crown. You know, and they were a tenner for all 3. But now we've got specialist retro gaming stores, and you have to pay a premium for retro. Again, that's going to be a subject for another video. I could go on for hours about that. Well, not hours, but, you know, I could go on for a long time for it. But now, as I say, all we've got for us vintage gamers is eBay and the likes of the Retro Hunter in Leigh-on-Sea and Retro Giant in both Romford and Brentwood. And a few other ones dotted around the country and that. But I still remember going into the old game shops. And you know what? I might be looking back with rose-tinted spectacles, but I do honestly think that that was the best time to be a gamer. I 100% do. I think that was the best time to be a gamer. You know, games were at a good price. Game stores were plenty. You know, if they didn't have what you wanted in one, you could go into another, and they would have it in there maybe. You know, and then you had mail order as well. Mail order places. Remember seeing them in like the old Spectrum and Amiga magazines. Things like Software City. You know. But yeah. They were great days. Great days to be a gamer. There might be memories, but they make this old fucker's heart glow warm. But that's the end of the video. That's the end of part 1. Part 2, which is going to be video stores of old, will be coming soon. So please do stick around for that. And if you like this video, there are loads of others I've got on the channel. Hopefully one of them will also tickle your pickle. So until the next video, thank you very much for watching. Stay safe and be well, and be nice to one another. Let's be nice to one another out there. You know, there's bad things going on in this world. Let's just try and inject a little bit of love in there somewhere. What's left for me to say is goodbye from another retro guy.